All right. So with season two of Squid Games releasing about a week ago, I thought I'd make my episode ranking. I'm going to include both season one and season two in these rankings. So we're going to rank all 16 episodes of Squid Games and talk about my individual thoughts of each season as well a little bit. So starting off, I'm just going to talk about my original thoughts on season one, and then talk about season two. So season one, um, mainly, I like the continuity of the show. I'm not a very good in-depth analysis guy, so just bear with me. But for season one, I like that there's it felt consistent. The story felt consistent. Great continuity throughout the entire first season. There's some good mystery involved there with our undercover cop guy kind of like um, infiltrating the base in secret and doing his own investigation. That was kind of cool. It's kind of cool to figure out where or why everything's happening. We kind of get a little bit of that stuff going on in season one. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on inside the games themselves, and we'll talk more about each individual episode when we get into it. But mainly, what I'm saying is, with season one, I liked the continuity, I liked the mystery, and it felt consistently good throughout the entirety of the season. And when we get on to season two, I felt as a whole it was probably a little less well done than season one. The middle was very middling, for lack of better terms. There, I feel like season two had a pretty good start and a pretty good finale and finish there as well. But the middle of season two felt a little bit bland. There's definitely less action in season two. There's only 7 episodes as opposed to 9 in season one, and it certainly feels a lot shorter. It feels like it could have been a little bit longer because you don't have 6 games in season two that we did in season one. So they kind of felt like they were trying to. It felt like honestly they were running out of game ideas, so they're kind of like, well, let's just not have as many games and kind of solve the problem that way, which isn't a horrible way to go about it. It also leaves us on a very big cliffhanger at the end, which is kind of disappointing, but it gives us some insight into season three. But throughout the entirety of season two, I do like the beginning and the end. I like that there's mystery involved as well with the cop trying to find the new island and stuff. I like the story that we have as player number one being the front man behind the whole operation. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's get into more in-depth analysis of every single episode. I'm going to be ranking them right here from 16 all the way to number one. I'll be getting started here. Number 16 is going to be season 2, episode 4, called Six Legs. I'm going to give it a score of 70 out of 100. Obviously, there. This episode basically was when player 456, he kind of knows the games already. He thought this game was going to be the honeycomb game. Turns out it was not. They kind of switched up the game, which I'm all for switching up the game and stuff, and that felt kind of give the show a little new touch to it. But I thought it was a fun game going on, but there was just not a whole lot that happened in this episode. Not much substance. Our main character, player 456, doesn't even play the game in this at all. We only get to see 2 teams actually play the game in this episode. There's a whole lot of dialogue and other stuff that's going on that isn't necessarily necessary. And this was kind of just felt like a filler episode to kind of stretch this out to 7 episodes instead of 6. So overall, it was still decent, but certainly the weakest episode of the series. Next up is going to be episode 5, called One More Game. So the very next episode here in season 2. Again, they also play that Six Legs game. So this is when we actually get to see our main character, player 456 and his team play the game. And of course, they have to have some drama that goes along with it, where they're barely making it out alive from there. But yeah, after each round in season 2, or after each game, they get a vote to decide if they want to, go home and everyone split the remaining cash prize, or go one more round, and continue to keep playing. So they make the vote. It's a 50-50 split after this game. So that's pretty cool. But everyone eventually just ends up voting to stay after this episode. So again, not a whole lot that happens. There's a little bit of drama, and there's a little bit of drama with the vote as well. But eventually, everyone just ends up staying here after this game, and it's not really a whole lot of substance in this episode as well. Next up is going to be season 1, episode 2, called Hell. I give it a score of 84. I thought it was a solid episode here. It's basically right after the events of season 1 or episode 1, where they play the red light, green light, and then they realize what this game is about, where everyone just basically is getting killed and stuff. So they take a vote, right? And they all vote to leave the game because, of course, because they don't all want to die. And they don't get any incentive to stay because nobody gets to take home cash prize until the very, very end here in season one. So everyone, the majority votes to leave, so they end up leaving. But then everyone realizes that their lives back home suck anyways. We do get a good little background stories in this episode, like some of our main characters. You can see what their home life was like and why they decided to join this game in the first place. And then we end up basically getting most of the people back in the game by the end of the episode anyways, because the rest of their regular life sucks. So why not come back? Even if this is hell, the regular life is seemingly worse than hell. Next up is going to be Season 2, Episode 1, Bread and Lottery, score of 86. So this is like my fourth to last episode here. So ranking at like number 13 or whatever, but I still think it's a very, very good episode. It definitely draws you into Season 2. And this guy, basically the whole plot of this episode is player 456, right? It's 3 years past from the original events, and he's basically trying to track down this guy because this guy is the one that lures people into playing the game. So he wants to track down this guy, question him as to, who you're working for, why are we getting guys into this game? Because player 456 wants to end the games, right? But he tracks this guy down. A whole bunch of stuff is going on with that, and then he eventually does find him, and they play a Russian roulette game, basically, because they're both like playing games, I guess, and they like the riskiness of it. And this guy ends up losing. This guy ends up killing himself in the Russian roulette game, which kind of solves part of player 456 problem, but obviously it does not solve all the problems because he still doesn't really get any answers from him. Next up is Season 2, Episode 3, called 001, referring to, player number 1. I give it a score of 87. So here, sorry, my notes went away here, but here in this episode, 456 is back in the game. He comes back in the game in episode 2. They play in red light, green light, so it's kind of a rehash of that episode. And player 456, of course, knows how the game works, so he's kind of trying to tell everyone else in the game what to do, and that it's like you have to take this seriously because if you don't, you're going to die. They don't really believe him at first until people actually get out and end up getting killed, and then people start taking it a little bit seriously. But it's pretty much a rehash of the red light, green light from the original, and they all vote to take a vote at the end of this round if they want to leave or stay. But they actually choose to stay this time because they changed the way with the voting works. After each round, you get to take home part of the cash prize instead of in Season 1 where you didn't get to take anything if you decided to vote and leave early. But yeah, it's a pretty solid episode. Very similar to the red light, green light in episode or in Season 1 because you're playing the same game. But it's a very good episode in my opinion. Next up is Season 1, Episode 5, called A Fair World. Also gets a score of 87. A lot of these are going to be right around the same area because aside from Season 2, Episode 4 and 5, most of these episodes I think are all really, really good. But this episode here, Season 1, Episode 5, A Fair World. So it's kind of like a tug of war game. In Episode 4, they're playing tug of war, and we get left on a cliffhanger at the end of that episode. And this episode, we do realize that they end up, winning their tug of war match barely, just very, very, very close. We also get revealed that player 111 is a doctor, and he's basically has a deal with the workers, with the shape man guys, to they'll tell him what the next game is so he can prepare, have a better chance of winning if he works with them and kind of basically cuts open the dead bodies and takes out their organs so they can go donate or so they can go sell their organs on the black market. It's kind of some strange stuff going on, and I do think that's pretty integral part of our story, and it's very entertaining. But he also ends up player 111 ends up getting killed when the frontman kind of realizes what is going on. Next up is our very opening episode of the series, Season 1, Episode 1, Red Light, Green Light. I'm going to give it a score of 88. So, obviously it's Episode 1, so it kind of gives us an introduction to our story. I think you'll get a very good introduction. It very much draws you into the show, right? Gives you a little bit of background information with this guy. It's kind of like very, very mysterious first episode, which is kind of what it draws you into the show because this guy is just walking around, and we know that he's in debt and stuff. And then he plays this game, gets slapped, gets lured into the game, plays red light, green light. They're like, what is going on? And then at the very end of the red light, green light, we're like, oh shoot, everyone's just gonna die here. So it's a very good episode. It definitely draws you into the story, and it makes you want to know what's gonna happen next. Why is everything happening? And are they gonna make it out alive? But yeah, next up would be season 1, episode 8, Frontman. Again from season 1, second to last episode. It's a very good build up to our finale. We get to learn that the cop, who's like undercover cop inside the game, as one of the workers here in season 1, he's looking for his brother because his brother went missing a while ago, and the front man right here is actually that cop's brother. This guy also plays a very important role in season 2, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, in this episode, we realize that this guy is the front man, which is obviously a very important part of our story. It's very good. It's really, really good. But our cop is basically digging up dirt. He gets confronted, and eventually he confronts the front man. He finds him, and he gets seemingly he gets killed by him, right? But ultimately he doesn't actually get killed. But we all think he gets killed. The front man thinks he gets killed. And in our actual Squid game that's going on, we are now down to 2 final people after this girl that you see over here. There's this guy, there's this girl, and then there's player 456, of course. And this girl is basically dying, and this guy ends up killing her, basically to put her out of her misery because she was probably going to die anyways, but this guy ends up killing her to make it only a 2-person race down at the end. There's not much going on in our actual game besides that, but most of this episode is based upon our cop discovering that this guy is the front man, which is his brother, and then he gets shot by him. Season 2, episode 6, called OX or Circle X. I'm not sure what you want to call that there, but I give it a score of 90. I thought it was a really good episode. They have like a musical chairs-esque style game. It's not really musical chairs, but I just say that because like there's multiple rounds and people have to get into it. People have to, get to a room, right? And then every time a new round happens, there's less and less people that get to be in each room. So it's kind of musical chairs in that sense, where there's less people that get to survive after every single round. But yeah, it's a very fun game. Well, fun looking game. Obviously not very fun. A lot of people die. But this basically narrows us down to 100 people for our last episode. Also, there's some other stuff that happens here in this game. There's kind of a brawl in the bathroom because after this game, there's 100 people left. They vote to stay or leave, and there's a 50-50 tie. So after a 50-50 tie, apparently they get to wait until the next morning to vote again. And because the people are kind of split on like, well, we have a 50-50 tie in the morning, what's going to happen? So they're doing everything they can to kind of sway their side's odds. And the best way to do that would simply to have a brawl in the bathroom and kill people of the other team, because if you kill the other team, then there's going to be more of your team. So that's kind of what they do. We lose 5 more people in that brawl. And also there's some mystery stuff going on with our with our cop guy. They find an island what they think is this island. They find like a trap door in the ground that seemingly would lead to a cave or something, but they open it and there's a big explosion and stuff, so they kind of like have to retreat the island. But yeah, going on, next would be season 1, episode 3, The Man with the Umbrella. I'm going to give it also a score of 90. This is a very, very good episode of season 1. There's some also good mystery that's going on here in this game as our undercover cop sneaks into the game in this episode. There's also a lot of drama in the honeycomb game that is played here. Our player 456 barely makes it out alive because he picked the umbrella shape, which is going to be one of the hardest shapes to cut out. Our old man also barely gets out alive. And a lot of stuff that's going on here in this episode. But yeah, going on to our next episode would be season 2, episode 2, called Back in the Game, with a score of 91. Again, this was a very great episode to, in the beginning of season 2. Season 1, or episode 1 and episode 2 of this season very much drawed me into the rest of it. I watched those 2 in the same day, and then I took a couple-day break with, the holidays and stuff, and then got back into it. But season 2, episode 2 was absolutely amazing. 456 and one of the cop guys, our cop guy, basically team up and try to track down the creators of this game. They try to figure out, they're trying to, bust the people who operate the game and try to get it shut down and get those guys in jail, basically. But they do track down some of these shapemen at a Halloween party, player 456. Eventually gets kidnapped, and the cops, he has some other people working with him. They're kind of following these guys, trying to figure out where they go. But they do not know that they're also being tracked by other shapemen who eventually shoot out all their tires, so that they can't really follow him anymore. So then 456 eventually basically ends up just back into the next round of Squid Games. And yeah, he basically is kidnapped by these guys and is now in the game again. So it's a really good episode in that aspect. Next up is going to be season 1, episode 4, called "Stick to the Team," with a score of 92. So this is our tug of war game from season 1. Episode 5 also technically was part of tug of war, but that was just the very, very end of it. This is the majority of that game. So there's a lot of mystery in this episode as well with our undercover cop. There's a fight breaks out that kills 28 people, which basically gets it down from 108 to 80, which then we have 8 teams for our tug of war game. There's a lot of drama with this tug of war game, right? The very, very end of the episode, we get left off with a cliffhanger with our 456 and his team barely surviving towards the end of this episode, and it looks like they're going to lose and all die. But then, of course, in episode 5, they don't die because 456 can't die, because that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of this show. But there's a lot of drama in this episode, and it's really, really entertaining. Next up is season 1, episode 7 of VIPs with a score of 93. I can see a lot of people not liking this episode as much because there's not a lot that goes on with our game itself. But I do really, really love the VIP mystery stuff, and there is still some good stuff that goes on in our game. The bridge game happens in this episode, which is pretty cool. It gets us down from like 40 people all the way down to only 3 people left. So that is also very, very important. I'm not sure if there's 40 people left. There might have been less than that. I don't really remember what happened, but this gets us down to our final 3 guys, right? So it's a very much needed episode in that aspect, because then it sets us up for our finale, a couple episodes down the line. But there's a lot of mystery that goes on with our cop and the VIPs. He's in the VIP room with a mask. They think he's at one of the workers or something. Then he takes one of the VIPs into a different room, and eventually, get some secrets out of him. I think he kills him, something like that. But yeah, a lot of mystery with that. And the bridge game is pretty entertaining as well. Next up is season 1, episode 6, Ganbu, with a score of 94. Yeah, this is the one where we get down from 40 people to, I believe, like 16 people. That would set up then the bridge game in episode 7. But this one is probably the saddest episode of the show, for sure. I give it a score of 94. It's the best non-finale episode. I only have 2 episodes left, and they're both the season 1 and season 2 finales. So this is easily the best non-finale episode, in my opinion, with a score of 94. They play the marbles game, they have to partner up, and we're seeing like we're assuming that they get a partner up. They're working with their partner against another group of partners, right? But no, they're actually competing against their own partner, and only one of them and their partner are going to be able to survive. So that's a very sad thing to think about. Eventually, the old man ends up dying in here. This one girl on the left here eventually sacrifices herself for the girl on the right. 456, like his friend, that gets teamed up with the Indian guy. He kind of blackmails the Indian guy into. The Indian guy was winning the game against him the whole time, but he kind of blackmails him, and then or tricks him, whatever you want to say, and then eventually the Indian guy ends up dying, even though he should have been the one to win. So some very sad things going on here in this episode. There's also some more mystery involved in here a little bit. Our cop's continuing to dig on dirt. He's inside the front man's office, and the front man realizes that there is somebody in there, or at least somebody was in there, but he can't really find out who or where they are. But yeah, next up will be season 2, episode 7, Friend or Foe, with a score of 95. So this is our finale of season 2. A very, very good finale, in my opinion. There's a massive night brawl, at the beginning of the episode, which gets us down from 100, from 95 to maybe 70 something or so. But then obviously the guards come in and kind of resolve those issues. But player 456 has a little group of his own with player number 1 and some other people in there as well, who are basically staging an attack. They're gonna lay low when the guards come in. They're gonna steal the guards' guns and then shoot the guards, and basically trying to break into the control room, whatever you want to call it, to basically tear apart the game from the inside out. Get the games over with once and for all. Find out who's behind them and all of that. So we get a whole bunch of drama going on with that. They find the guns. They kill these people. They're going out to infiltrate, whatever, right? They have a massive, gun shootout thing with all of these guards and stuff. Eventually, some of them break off. 451 breaks off, or 456 breaks off. Number one breaks off, and a couple other guys break off with them, up to like pretty close to the control room. But then eventually, the front man, who is player number one, eventually backstabs the guys that he's with, shoots them, goes and shoots 456, his friend, and then we're eventually left on a cliffhanger where 456, his best friend that he was with, his best friend just got shot by the front man, who 456 does not know is player number one. He thinks player number one is dead at this point. So there's a lot of stuff that the audience knows that we're just waiting for 456 to find out. We're waiting for our cop guy to find out as well. Like, we know a lot of this stuff. We're just waiting for them to find out. But we don't find that out in this episode, and that's the cliffhanger of this season. So we're left on a major cliffhanger heading into season 3, which I don't know when it's going to come out. I hope it comes out like maybe December of this year, of 2025. It certainly is not going to take 3 more years to come up with that of season 3 of Squid Games, or I would be very, very disappointed. And I think everyone else would be disappointed as well. But with that said, I'm going to move on to season 1, episode 9, season 1 finale here with a score of 95 as well. So this was a very good episode here. Right, we get down to our final 2, and it's revealed that they're basically just doing a fist fight, essentially, to the death for the winner of that game. So I'm gonna give it a score of 95, same score as our season 2 finale. But yeah, 456 and 218 here are just basically beating each other up until one of them dies, so one of them can finally be a winner. 218 is practically on his deathbed, but 456 comes up with the idea that if they both just decide to end the game right here, they both get to live. Even though 456 would not get any money, he would rather save 218's life. But 218 is practically already dead, and he's like, I'm not doing it. So he kills himself so 456 can walk away with all the money. So he does that. That's a very sad kind of ending to look at this too. But 456 does end up winning the game. He goes home. He finds his mom at home and dead. So that's also not a very good way to end there. He also eventually ends up finding player number 1 later, which we thought player number 1, the old man, was dead a long time ago. But he ends up finding him and realizes that player number 1 is the one that was actually behind the whole game. So that was very interesting to find out. It kind of left us with a cliffhanger there at the end of the episode as well. But that also got resolved, in episode 1 of season 2. But yeah, we're left with a whole bunch of questions as to why player 1 is alive, why he started this whole thing. So we don't really have any answers to that at the end of season 1. We also don't really have any answers to that question at the end of season 2 either. That is the main thing that I am hoping to find out in season 3, is why is everything happening? I don't really care about the games themselves. I don't care about any of that. I care about why everything's happening. I just want them to resolve that in season 3, and hopefully the series is done in 3 seasons, because I don't really want any more. I wish it was just going to be done now and we knew everything now, but we got a lot of information, and I like this season of season 2 and season 1, obviously, but I just want to know why everything's happening. I want everything to be resolved. So I hope it's resolved in season 3 when that comes out. Hopefully that comes out later this year. But yeah, this is all I got to say about this episode. I'm already kind of rambling on past that, but that's going to be it for this video. I know I'm probably not the best guy to review shows or anything like that, especially Squid Games, because I just, I don't have a lot of knowledge on all of these, and a lot of these guys don't even have real names that we actually know, so it's kind of hard to talk about them. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Probably not because I don't know how to review um, shows. But that's all I got to say. Thank you for watching, and make sure to check out my other videos as well.